Hello and welcome to this recording of our Third Wall webinar. Third Wall is a product that we created as a plugin specifically for ConnectWise Automate, fully integrated, giving you a brand new tool to make your cybersecurity environment much more secure. Today, you're going to rely on a strong firewall and a good antivirus, and that's important. You have to have that. But in our opinion, today you also need Third Wall, which gives you automated lockdown security. Today, you're probably relying on things like training and written policies. Those are important. Maybe even some automation with group policy, which in the cybersecurity world just simply isn't adequate. And perhaps even scripts, which are cumbersome, difficult, and not necessarily reliable, particularly if you start to do them in any kind of large quantities. So we built Third Wall to give you a brand new, easy to use tool, fully integrated into Automate, where you can start deploying a much bigger force for a third wall of security, which everybody needs. So let's take a look. I'm going to start out with a standard Automate control center. This should look familiar to all of you. And we've got several clients here, as you can see. And I'm going to focus in on this client called TW Demo with two different locations underneath. One of them called Demo, one of them called Demo 2. Why are we going to focus in on locations? Because that's the first piece of Third Wall, which is policies. I hesitate to use this analogy, but it's a good starting point. Think group policy on steroids. To start with, it applies to every single Windows computer you have, not just those that are domain. And that's increasingly important, so there are many other advantages over group policy, that, as you'll see. But that's a good place to start your brain as to what the policies are. We have 58 of them, and we'll start there. But additionally, we'll show you what you can do with individual computers, which boils down to really two things. Easily make an exception for any policy that you've set for any computer you want to. Really easy to do. Again, much better than group policy. And then additionally, there are 4 emergency action buttons that once you see them, you're going to really want these and say, hey, I need to have these right now as a way to respond to certain emergencies. And finally, we'll intersperse our discussion with some talk and show and tell about our data views and the reports that we have that make this really come together and give you some important tangible tools that you can use with your clients. So that being said, let's jump in and take a look. We're going to open up this first location called Demo. So I'm opening that up now with a quick double click, and you can see this is a standard Automate location screen, and there is now a Third Wall tab. Installation causes this to occur, of course, and it's very simple to install. It takes usually less than 5 minutes to do a full installation. We automate most of it for you. Interestingly enough, right? So let's go ahead with Third Wall and take a look. When you click on that tab, the first thing you're going to see is what we call the security overview. At a glance, it shows you all 58 policies that are available to you in Third Wall and their current state in this particular location. Again, all the computers in this location will be impacted as we start turning on or turning off policies. You can see from our legend at the bottom here that yellow means the policy is not active, and most of the 58 policies currently are not active, as you can tell. Green means the policy is active. We have one that is currently active, and there are 4 other colors that we'll see along the way. This is not generally a clickable screen. It really is just there for you to use, mostly for status of these computers and policies, and second, to navigate, because the black lines are titles of subsections. They're not policies in themselves, and they correspond with the other subtabs over here on the left. So you can easily find and navigate any policy that you want to. Let's show you how easy the user interface is to use. And to do that, I'm going to pick on this one policy called the Disallow Microsoft Accounts. Now, this particular policy is an important one that prevents people from logging on using their Windows credentials, their Microsoft credentials, personal credentials, things like Windows Live, Hotmail, even the Windows 10 credentials they get when they sign up for a Windows 10 home version, right? Because with any Windows 8 computer, you can get in with any of those creds, and that's not what you want for your work computer, so we're going to lock that down, our first lockdown policy. You'll notice that's in the local built-in account management, so let's navigate to that subtab, and sure enough, there it is, Disallow Microsoft Accounts. So to turn it on, pretty simple. We try to make this easy. Click on the slider, and the Save button turns green. We'll click on that, and there you go. This policy is now turned on. We just issued Automate commands. We use no scripts whatsoever in our plugin. It is strictly commands and .NET. So it happens very quickly. It's very reliable. All very good. And we've just, in this case, changed a registry setting. And that registry setting is going to say, hey, you may not log on with these Microsoft personal credentials. And it works. There you go. We've protected these computers. Notice a couple of things have shown up. When did I turn it on? This is important for audit compliance purposes. We create a report that you can hand to auditor saying, I've protected these computers on this policy since this particular date. Very important for auditing. And then second, this undo link, which is the primary way for removing our policies. So if I go back over to the overview, you're going to see that this one is now turned green and that date is repeated here. Again, at a glance, plenty of information. In addition, one thing we did here was we turned on a monitor. So we changed a setting and then we put a monitor on it. And that monitor is going to check that setting every 5 minutes, in this case that registry value, to make sure it's correct. And if it is, great, it goes to sleep, repeats in 5 minutes, repeats in 5 minutes, and so on and so forth, until such time as it finds that the value is not in the correct state. At that point, it's going to change what it does completely. And it's going to, just like group policy, it's going to auto-fix that setting. And then secondarily, it's going to send you a ticket. So that ticket is something that you'll want to pay attention to. So if I go back to the controls panel and I go to the service desk tickets, these are standard Automate tickets. They will flow through to your ConnectWise Manage or other flow-through ticket management system if you've got that. But you can see ours start with TW. We have a lot of them since that's what we do for a living, but you'll only have a few. And primarily you'll see those when we had to do an auto fix for a parameter or a setting that we found was in the wrong state. That's important so that you can follow up on it. But at the same time, we don't want to be a ticket machine. So what we do is 5 minutes after we create that ticket, we check that setting again. And if it's still in the corrected state, then we will automatically resolve it so that you don't have a bunch of open tickets staring you in the face every day. So, although you shouldn't have a lot of them anyway, right? Anyway, so that's turning it on. Let's go reverse course and turn it off. 3 different ways to turn it off. So let's take a look at those. The first way, you go back to the same switch you turned it on with. And if I click on this, if you read carefully, when saved, the policy's monitor will be turned off, but it doesn't change those values. In this case, that underlying registry setting is still the way it was before. It's restricting people from logging on using those personal Microsoft credentials, but we're not monitoring it anymore. We do allow that. I'm going to click Save. So this is a partial removal of this policy. You can think of it that way. And in fact, we make it orange. Orange means applied and removed, but not undone. So it's a partial removal, and you notice the date is gone. Since we're not monitoring it, we can't verify to auditors that it's protected. Somebody might have changed it because we're not auditing it. We're not monitoring it. So let's go turn it back on. I'm going to click Save again. And now this is back to green. Let's use the undo link, which is the more complete and thorough way of removing a policy. If I click undo here, I will get, under most of our policies, 2 choices. Some of them only give you 1 because it's only one makes sense, but most of them will give you these 2. Undo and remove the policy. That will both remove the monitor and revert that value, or in this case, erase that registry setting. Or you can do a temporary suspension. Let's just do the full undo for now. You can see it's now no longer active, and this is now gone back from green to yellow. So let's turn it back on one more time. Click Save. And now let's use a temporary option. So I'm going to create a temporary suspension. Notice we have a slider that pops up, and it allows you to go anywhere from 5 minutes up to a full hour. And that's a full undo for a temporary period of time. That temporary period of time is, you select it, and this will be a full undo to give you a window where you, the administrator, can do something. That's why we created this, so that you wouldn't have to be locked down by the third wall system. And it'll give you a window for you can do some work, because we are a lockdown protocol, and you will occasionally find that gets in your way. So that being said, let's go ahead and create that temporary suspension. You can see we have suspended it now. It'll last for 60 minutes. And at the end of that 60 minutes, third wall is going to turn this policy back on across this location for you. You cannot forget. So if I go back to the overview, you're going to see this is now pink, and the pink the data is still there because this is a very controlled situation where you cannot forget to turn the policy back on. ThirdWall does it for you. So we're preserving that date for audit purposes. I'm not going to wait the full 60 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and click undo one more time, and this gives me the option to remove the suspension, which I'm going to do, and I'm going to click save, and we're now back to green. So there you go, on and off, pretty straightforward, but a lot of power at your fingertips. That's the easy way, the ease of use of our interface. Let's jump back in now and talk about our policies, because this is what you're going to get at your fingertips in order to make things happen, right? So it's important that you understand what they're going to do for you. The first three, as you can see, are all about protecting the local administrator account. Now, this is the one that's built into Windows, not the one that you may have created secondarily. It's built into Windows, and the default name for it, of course, is administrator. How many hackers do you think know that? Yep, that would be all of them, right? And they all view this as a big prize. If they can hack into an administrator account, a local administrator account with advanced privileges, yeah, that's good. So they're all trying to do that. Well, let's make their job twice as hard by forcing them to guess the administrator account name. We'll name it Bob. And while we're at it, let's change the password. We can change it across the entire location, and we will store it encrypted on an Automate table. The only place you'll see it in clear text is here, only if you put your cursor over it, in accordance with many compliance regulations, right? There is an asterisk at the end of these, and that means that these will only apply to workstations and not to servers. So some of our policies, just like you manage your servers and workstations differently, some of our policies apply differently as well. So that's an important piece. Notice how this one is grayed out. You cannot do these or either one of these and this one. They are mutually exclusive. And since I have not hit save, since I selected those switches, I can just simply deselect, and then this one's available to me and I can select that one. So different ways to protect that local administrator account from those hackers that are just banging at the doors to get into that, and you'll make your environment much safer if you do that. The guest account, a little bit more mundane. The guest account, in fact, is turned off by default when you install Windows, but wouldn't you like for ThirdWall to check that every 5 minutes, remember every 5 minutes, and auto-fix it, send you a ticket, allow you to have a report proving to auditors that you've had it disabled? This is a vulnerable place, so let's keep it turned off and prove to the auditors that it is. So that's why that's there. We already know about disallow Microsoft accounts. Now, again, I'm not going to hit save for a while so that you can see things, and I don't have to hit it until I'm ready to hit save. Moving down a tab on our subtabs to local user account management. The first three are pretty obvious what they do, protecting the local password, not the domain. In length, age, and complexity. You should be doing this already. You probably are, but ThirdWall makes it so easy. You may want to just do it with ThirdWall, and of course, this works on non-domain machines as well. Again, above and beyond group policy. Password protected screensaver is another important one. These are all required by so many compliance regulations that you might as well do it anyway because you're going to need to do them for compliance. And again, ThirdWall makes it quite simple and easy. This one has a slider. You can go anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to a couple of hours. I'm going to leave it down at 5 minutes because when we come back to our report, the user logon report, then you'll understand why this is particularly important. The next policy down, restrict local administration tools. If you're like most of our clients, you provide your end users with local admin privileges through group assignment. So they're not local administrators, but they have some privileges. And when you do that, you tend to give them these dangerous tools as well. So if you don't want to give them dangerous tools, let's take them away. Click on this. These are all taken away. No more registry editor, run as admin, or PowerShell. There's no access to any of those. Maybe you want them to have control panel and task manager, and that's great. You can just unclick those and those will be available. You can also click this extra checkbox, which will allow people who are logged in as the local built-in administrator or the domain administrator to bypass these particular restrictions. And there are some other ways that you as the administrator can get by these restrictions as well. But these are really powerful ways to lock down end users from getting themselves and you in deep trouble, which they are known to do on occasion, right? So next one down is Windows UAC, User Access Control. This just mirrors Windows UAC policy precisely. Same settings as in the control panel. Best practices says level 3. or 4. But of course, we give you choices. One of the beauties of this is we give you 58 policies. You can set them however you want and whatever works for you and your client. There is no requirement to turn all of these on to the most maximum setting. You can pick and choose what makes sense for you and your clients. So these last two are designed specifically for those end users who want to install some unwanted software. And you know you have them, they're out there. So let's put some roadblocks up for them. The first one will stop any variant of setup or install executables running. I say any variant because these are wildcards in here on the inside of the quotation marks. So no variant of those will work. You have stopped a bunch of people. Now, you can whitelist some of those if you'd like, and those will run and nothing else will. So some pretty good capability for you to manage unwanted installations. Similarly, with Windows Installer, MSI files, you can stop. There's a couple of radio buttons here that will disable all MSI files from running, or this one just means anyone being run by a non-administrator. Non-elevated, you can't run it. Elevated, you can. So this is another powerful piece of software for preventing those unwanted installations, right? So moving on to the next subtab down, OS security. The first one is pretty obvious. Windows, Microsoft is spying. They're bringing back every single keystroke. We can stop that. Easy to do for us. You may have thought you'd stop this by turning on the privacy settings, but Microsoft really wants those badly and tends to ignore that. So we figured out a way to turn this off completely so they cannot get those keystrokes. Enabling the logon message. This one's really important. Before I even talk about that, I wanted to sort of categorize our policies into two different elements. There are some policies like disable Windows 10 keylogger that we consider to be no-brainers. Your end users will not notice them. Many of the ones we've already discussed are no-brainers. Your clients, your end users will not notice that you are protecting them. It is important protection, but you're not going to get any pushback. So that's an important way that you can just globally start pushing out the no-brainers. You'll get no pushback. Why wouldn't you do that to everybody, right? Protect them all, no pushback. I like that combination. Some of them, however, are going to require permission. You will get pushback if you deploy them without permission. For instance, one that we're going to come to here in a couple minutes is prevent public webmail access. That one you need to ask permission because people will be really upset with you if you take away access to their public webmail. So again, we'll come back to that. But those are the two different types of policies I want you to think about. Now, enable logon message is kind of a third. It's, boy, you really need to do this one, right? Because this is branding. Why wouldn't you put here, every time somebody logs on to their computer, they see this, protected by your world-class MSP or whatever service provider you are. So you can brand yourself. Obviously don't put MSP there. Put your company's name there. And every time they log in, they're going to see this. So some good branding. And then you can put the appropriate disclaimer here. You can even put a special notice. And it can be different every day if you want to, or every week, because it's just that easy to change. So again, this one's even one step beyond a no-brainer. You really have to do this. Why would you not brand yourself, right? Smart Screen, I think everybody knows what Smart Screen is. It's a great protective device for Microsoft browsers. So if people have access to a Microsoft browser, please turn it on. It's a true no-brainer. UPnP and Autorun, those are well-known protocols, pretty useful, but also somewhat vulnerable. So you may want to turn those off. I recommend it. Autorun in particular, all we do there is we suppress that pop-up. So if somebody has a rogue data stick and they plug it in, they pick it up where they shouldn't have, maybe at a trade show or something. And that pop-up comes up that says, what would you like to do with this? And it's been socially engineered, and they click on that file, whoops. So we just suppress the pop-up. Simple protection, but it really, really does help. It saved one of our clients a ton of trouble. So a couple of ones that you should consider. Let's go up a little bit in importance level, though. Disable executables running from the app data folder. This goes 9 layers deep in the app data folder, and it will prevent any executable running from the app data folder. That's pretty powerful. Why do you want to do that? Because of ransomware. Ransomware loves to bury itself in the app data folder and run, a day, a week, a month later. So when it tries to launch, this policy will stop that from working, just like that. So that's a great thing, but this stops all executables. What about those executables in the app data folder that you want to run? Well, good news is if you go to the Automate System Dashboard, remember fully integrated. So this is the Automate System Dashboard configuration integration. There's now a third wall page. And you can see we have a way to whitelist it. You can add as whatever you want. It's a global whitelist, and we even have a new system that may be out by the time you are watching this video that allows you to even go beyond that within a particular client and do an automatic scan to find all of the app data executables that are in that client and then import the ones that you want. So it's much more automatic, much more automated than doing a manual system like this. But this is a really powerful system for now and allows you to start taking the first step towards stopping ransomware. I always get the question, well, won't my antivirus stop the ransomware? You know, people think that, but it's just not the case. Ask the city of Baltimore. Ask the city of Riviera Beach in Florida. Those are some in the headlines lately, but it happens all the time. Most of our clients, before they got third wall, tell us they had ransomware hit them at least once in the last year or two. So yeah, let's stop that. This is layer number one of ransomware. As it gets past your other defenses, third wall will help take care of it and prevent it. Last one here is terminal server services. This is RDP, which is a known huge target for hackers. They really want to get in, especially with things like brute force logon attempts. So if you're not using RDP in a particular location, then turn it off. It's best practices. Least access, least privilege. Turn off what's not being used so that it's not subject to attack. You can apply this to workstations, servers, or both, or neither, but obviously if you're using RDP actively in a location, you probably don't want to use it at all. But if you aren't, please turn it off. That's what we help you do. Lock down, make it more secure. Move on to the next subtab, Data I/O Security. This is all about protecting from data theft. Not the kind of stuff like what just hit Capital One recently, where millions of records, right? By hackers. This is not hackers. This is protection. A lot of our policies, by the way, do prevent hackers from getting in. That's what the lockdown can really help you do. But this in particular is targeted instead towards internal employees and contractors. Never forget contractors. Contractors aren't necessarily very loyal, and they would love to take some confidential data and take it to their next gig, a competitor, right? Verizon estimates that over 50% of all internal employees and contractors without access to privileged confidential information are going to steal some at some point. It's a huge number, and if your end users, your clients don't know that, then you have an obligation to tell that story to them. So let's throw up some roadblocks. You can stop them writing to a disk, just like that. Notice how this one's grayed out. You have to choose one or the other for obvious reasons. There's 3 different ways to protect USB devices. This is the most restrictive. Disable all reading and writing to USB storage devices. This includes data sticks, external drives, phones, and cameras. None of them will be able to use for storage. Now, yes, you can still charge your phone, and you can still use a mouse. Those things are not impacted, but you can't use the storage features any longer. Not going to be able to. These 2 are grayed out, obviously, and since I haven't hit save, again, I can just deselect. And this one's pretty obvious what it does, but this one, not so much. Enable USB wall. This is something that we built that's been really popular. If you don't want a full lockdown, this may be for you. What it does is it starts out as a full lockdown. No USB storage devices work at all. But big twist, you, the service provider, can register USB sticks. Now, only USB sticks will work, no other types of devices. And those sticks that you register will work and nothing else will. So it's a partial lockdown. You can register those sticks. You have to do it at an Automate Control Center. Send it to your client. Send those to your client. You can do multiple, of course. And your client can pass those out to highly trusted individuals only. And now you have reduced the exposure pretty dramatically to somebody walking out the door and going to a competitor. It happened in my wife's company just last year, so you cannot be too careful here, nor can your client's management. There's another big twist to this. If I go back to the Automate Control Center, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to go to our first data view, third wall v2, and USB wall file transfer audit. This is a data view that will show you the file name of every single file transferred to a registered stick, which is the only way you can write to a USB device is to register sticks, right? Who did it, when did they did it, and when did they do it, and what computer they did it from. So really powerful information. We store 60 days worth of data. You can every month export it to Excel, send that Excel file to your client, and they can look through that list and say, oh, Bobby's been stealing confidential information. Whoops, Bobby's in trouble. So this will give your client some real peace of mind with a partial lockdown. That's a powerful feature. Now, how do you register those sticks? As I said, you have to do it on an Automate Control Center, but you don't do it by location, you do it by client. So I'm going to open up this client called TW Demo, and there is, of course, a third wall tab. And this is a screen where you can remove or add USB sticks. Only takes a few seconds to add them. And we recommend that you buy some branded sticks. Test them out first. Get them to be NTFS format, or you'll have to format them in order to get the full value of all that data I showed you. Is NTFS format works best. Brand them, register them, and then send them to your clients, or sell them to your clients at a profit if you're so inclined. This is a good business model that a lot of our clients are using to help their clients be more secure. So that is USB wall. Let's go back to this screen. Disabling common cloud storage is just what it sounds like. You can stop people from using their Dropbox or their Google Drive. They can't just simply copy it down to their personal cloud storage. It just stops them cold. Last one's a little different here. Scheduling secure face space delete. You know when people delete files, they're not truly deleted. Simply the pointers are deleted. So those files, we call them ghost files, are still, you can still yank the hard drive or access the hard drive. And they're sitting there, easy to recover. That's not necessarily good in a secure environment. So this allows you on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis to do a 3-pass overwrite of ones and zeros so that those files are no longer there. They're deleted, truly deleted. So this is a pretty powerful feature for a lot of our clients as well. Let's go down to the next one, application security. The first policy here is a bit of a work in progress. Maybe it'll be done by the time you are watching this video, but for now it is still useful, but only partially. If you blacklist an application within Automate, third wall will silently and automatically uninstall that program. If somebody else then installs it, we'll take it off. But only for MSI files so far. We're hoping to get to executables here shortly. But that's a powerful policy in its own right. The next one, we talked a little bit about preventing public webmail access. This one is a really important story for you to tell your clients because it's still, phishing on personal email is still the primary entryway for malware in small and medium businesses. And you just need to stop that. So go tell your clients that story. Talk to the CEO and say, I want to do this on your computers. The CEO is going to say, sure, that's a great idea. Let's do that. But wait, you're not going to restrict me from getting to my Gmail, right? And you can nod your head and say, no problem. We will allow you, Mr. or Miss CEO, to absolutely have that access. Because remember, you can make an exception for any computer that you want to for any policy. So just make an exception, and that CEO now has access to their email. Still the biggest security threat in the company, right? Preventing social media access, very similar. No longer Facebook, no longer Tinder. So, you can prevent that. You may want to make exceptions for the marketing people so that they can get to those applications. These three are pretty obvious, I think. So let me just bounce to the next two. These are equally obvious to those of us in the IT world, but really, really important. Microsoft very recently just put out a big warning: disable macros from the internet, Office macros from the internet. And here we are. We've had this for a couple of years, and we knew that. We know that. So you really need to use this because there's a lot of malware that piggybacks, often in a way that is fileless, that gets right past your antivirus into your environment, piggybacking on macros and on OLE. So if it's from an outside domain or if it's from the internet download, then this will disable macros and OLE. So please turn those on. Make your environment much safer. Next tab down is protocol security. Now, we all know what protocols are. They're important, they're useful, and the older they get, the more vulnerable they get. So We have given you the ability at again, a click of a switch to reduce your vulnerability by turning off some protocols. We're going to go from here down, the disable local LM hash storage, down at first. These are all various protocols with the exception of this one, which is an audit function to help you understand what's going on. But these could and should be turned off if you are not using them. Best practices, again, least access, least privilege. So we're going to deny access to these. But you have to be a little careful with them. SMBV1 is the classic example. This is how WannaCry got around in just last year. Still around, by the way. And if you turn off SMBV1, then WannaCry is not going to get around, but you're going to get a few phone calls from people saying, hey, how come I can no longer scan to computer? Well, the reason is a lot of scanners, and particularly all-in-ones, use SMBV1, an obsolete communications protocol, to do their scanning to computer. And that's not good, but it is what it is. So you have to be a little careful with these to watch out for side effects. Please test any of these that you turn on within the client's environment, and to make sure you're not going to have any adverse side effects. But once you have done that testing, please deploy these. They're very important. These are known attack points, and you should be very careful with them. So the top two are a little different. Windows Firewall for the workstations and server. If you want the Windows Firewall to be turned on, simply click here. ThirdWall will not only turn them on for you, but will again check them, monitor them every 5 minutes to make sure that they stay on. And if you've not ever seen a Windows Firewall mysteriously turn off, then you need to stay in IT a little longer, because I've seen it many times. You always scratch your head, why did that do that? So we're going to check it, we're going to catch it, we're going to turn it back on for you and auto fix it. So that's all good. And again, within 5 minutes. If you want to create your own rules configuration file and apply that rule set to these computers, then go ahead and create a WFW file on this computer, your Automate Control Center computer, and click here, and we will bring up the Windows Explorer, File Explorer, and you can just choose your file, and you're off and running, and we are now forcing your rule set. There's a backdoor, by the way, which you can find in our documentation online at third-wall.com, where it allows you to turn this policy on, or this one, and it will enforce that the firewall is turned off and stays off. A lot of our clients like that because they don't want the firewall to be turned on. They're using a group firewall or a different firewall, and they want the Windows firewall to be turned off. So take a look at that in our documentation. You'll find descriptions of everything I'm talking about today in our documentation online in our instructions document. Okay, last page and the most fun, security logging and monitoring. Let's take a look at what we got here. So first things first, think back, have you ever used a Windows log file to go look for some logon events for a particular user and just pulled your hair out because it's so hard to use? And I think that's probably the case for most of you. If you turn this one on, we're actually going to make that situation worse, not better, because Windows log files by default only capture logon events, but that's not good enough. We want to capture log off events as well. This is important and required by many compliance regulations that you capture both log on and log off events. So we're going to turn both of them on. That's the bad news. The good news is we then can turn this policy on, which uses this data, runs it through a powerful filtering algorithm, and comes up with just the relevant user logon data. It gets rid of all the redundancy, all of the extraneous logon types, and it allows you to create a user logon report and data view. So let's go take a look at those. I've got the report up right now, and this is it, the logon auditing and tracking. It is in the standard Automate Control Center report center. So you can see I'm in the Automate Report Center now, and here is the report itself. Some things about the report. First of all, it is hard-coded, so that it's from the day you run it backwards for a month plus 1 day. A month plus 1 day. Why do we do that? Because you can then use the scheduling wizard to schedule this to run every single month, and you'll have a 1-day overlap. So we're just ensuring that you have an overlap there of data. For archive purposes, we keep 60 days worth of data online in an Automate table. We don't want to go beyond that. So you should be running this automatically in the schedule wizard, sending it to yourself and or your client or clients as a PDF and saving that for archival purposes. And that's why we built this. So let's take a look at the data. First of all, it is pre-sorted. You can't change the sort at all. first by domain and then by user. So it's really easy to find a user even in a long report, and then by computer in case they're using more than one, and then by the event start time. And the event start time regulates a lot of things. So, but it is only the fourth level of sort. So let's take a look at the events themselves here. I'm going to start here because I have some nice contiguous data. Log on, unlock, 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 log on. Well, wait a minute. Aren't we supposed to be capturing logons and logoff events? We are, yes, and the logoff events are in the end column, so you can see them here. This is a logoff, and this is and underneath it is an unlock and a lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. So we have log on and log off, and nested underneath it are all of these relevant unlock and lock events. The final unlock here, you'll notice that the time here, 3:29:32, corresponds with the log off, which it always will. And we even calculate durations for you. How long was the computer logged on and how long was it unlocked? Now, think about this in terms of an interesting side benefit of this. We built this specifically for archival purposes to satisfy certain compliance requirements. But instead, let's say that you, for instance, set, we'll go back to this policy here. Policies here. I'm going to go all the way back to here. Remember this one? Enforce password protected screensaver. What if you ratchet this down to 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes, and there's a problem employee at one of your clients. So you go to your client and you say, do you have any problem employees? Sure. Would you like to know when they logged on and logged off their computer every day? Yeah, that would be interesting. I'd like that. Would you like to know how many minutes a day that their computer was actually unlocked and they were working? Wow, you can tell me that? How much do I pay you? And that's the conversation a lot of our clients have, because this is a remarkably valuable tool. It's objective. It is real data that you can use. And again, if you set that screen lock down to 5 minutes, we're going to capture that as a lock event here, and it will, that problem employee will show up very quickly as not working on their computer like they're supposed to be because they were away and that computer locked. So this has become an amazingly powerful and valuable, monetarily valuable tool for so many of our clients as they sell it to their clients. So this is something you want to remember. There is a corresponding data view. So I'm going to go here, back to the main screen. I'm going to right-click and go to Data Views, third wall, and there is the user login audit. So if I glance at that, same exact data, 60 days worth, but of course it is a standard Automate data view, so you can filter it, you can sort it, whatever you'd like to do, and quickly come up with forensic answers like, was somebody in the office after hours on Tuesday night? You'll know the answer within seconds. So the data view that goes along with that report is pretty powerful. All right, back to here and this page. We just did user logon reporting and enhanced security event logging. This just turns on some event log types that are not normally turned on by default that some compliance, in particular US HIPAA, require. So we don't do anything with them. We just store them in the event log. You can find out more about them again in our documentation. Here's my favorite policy: monitor for event log clearing. It's a true no-brainer. The policy will only ever do, the only action it'll ever take is to send you a ticket. So the end user will never know that you've got this turned on. A no-brainer. But it will send you a ticket if the event log gets cleared. Why? Because of ransomware. Again, ransomware. This is layer 2. Ransomware likes to bury itself, and when it does so, it clears the event log among its various things that it does to cover its tracks. So it almost always clears the event log. And wouldn't you like to get a ticket when ransomware buries itself in your client's computer? Yeah, well, if you need to deploy this one to every single client you've got tomorrow and create that level of protection, because why not, right? Next one down is going to actually go up a notch in its capabilities. So let's take a look at this. Alert on excess of failed logon events. Looking for brute force logon attempts, clearly. So when you click on this, first thing you have to do is select what is excessive for this particular location. Now, 2 logon failures per rolling hour seems a little bit on the oversensitive side. You're going to get some false alarms. So I'm going to turn that up all the way to 10 logon failures per rolling hour is going to do something. In this case, you can see it says will generate an alert ticket. But let's go over here to the detection actions box, and we can change that. We can select what we want it to do. Right now it's set to ticket only, generate an alert ticket. But you can also choose other things. All these other things are available to you, and they will also send you an alert ticket. So you'll always get an alert ticket, but you can also, for instance, isolate and shut down that computer. Now, isolate we'll get to in a second here, but shut down is pretty obvious. Notice the asterisk. Asterisk means that it will not be, we will not shut down a server. We aren't quite that bold. But instead of doing the radio buttons, most of our clients choose one, two, or all three of these check marks because you can do more than one. You can run an antivirus scan on that computer right now with whatever AV is associated to that computer via your Automate setup. You can lock out that computer. Lockout is a function that will kick everybody off the computer. Then it will disable all local accounts. So the only way to get back in is with domain creds. So we've made this computer much safer in just a couple of seconds. Much safer than it was in responding to this brute force attack. And last is isolate. There's isolate again. So what does isolate do? Isolate disconnects that computer from everything. No internet, no network, local or wide. It is disconnected from everything. So you're preventing this thing from spreading. Really important. We've done it automatically for you. But also for you, we've actually left two exceptions to this isolation. One is your Automate server, and two is your Control or Screen Connect server. Those two are still connected, which means you, from your control center, still have access to that computer and can go in and try and fix it without leaving your desk. Because if you disconnect it completely, you're driving. If you don't, you can fix it right from your desk and never leave your office. So these three are really important responses to a failed logon attempt. Isolate and lockout are reversible on the third wall computer screen, which, yes, we'll show you that shortly. Okay. Monitor for ransomware attacks, another powerful one, and the third and final layer of our ransomware protection. Again, we did app data protection, we did event log clearing, ticket, and now we're going to do a final layer, which is going to look for ransomware attack in progress. So when you turn this on, Third wall is going to deploy 4 bait files, like phishing bait, to the primary documents folder of every end user. Then we're going to slap an instantaneous monitor on on each of those files, looking for content change. And if we see content change, we're going to spring into action to try and mitigate the damage. Again, you've got some choices as to what we should do, what third wall should do. We can send you a ticket only. We can isolate and shut down. We can AV scan, isolate. You've seen all of those, but the last option here is disable the volume shadow service, which will isolate those volume shadow copies a little bit further from the attacking entity, the attacking ransomware. So lots of things to help take care of an attack in progress. And of course, you'll be notified. Now, notice that we have an alert action template here. This is so urgent that we don't have a default. You must select something. Everything else has a default, which you can change, by the way, but the default is send a ticket. So that's what we do as a default for every policy except for this one. This one is urgent enough because it's an attack in progress right now that we force you to choose how you want to be notified. You may want to create an Automate alert template that says, hey, ring my phone or ring somebody's phone, right? But whatever is the appropriate level of attention required for a ransomware attack in progress, select a policy or, excuse me, a template that does that. You can hide those bait files if you'd like. They are not hidden by default. They all have the word third wall written out in the file name. So if you don't hide them, please let your end users know that they're there, again, in the primary documents folder, my documents or whatever it may be. We auto detect that. And tell them they're there so they don't get spooked and try and delete one. Now, if they do delete one, nothing will happen. We'll just recreate it on the spot. Now, however, if they happened to hit the delete key and hold it down multiple times because they're a little spooked, it came right back, then yeah, that will actually initiate these actions. Nothing catastrophic, all reversible, but you may want to make sure and tell them if you don't hide them that they're going to be there. If you hide them, it's less of a problem. Activating on delete or rename, though, will change the game. This is in response to a different variant of ransomware. Some ransomware does not encrypt in place. What it instead does is creates a copy of the target file, and then it encrypts the copy, and it then deletes the target file. So once it deletes, that's when we catch that variant of ransomware. So you may want to turn this on. But again, this will, on a single delete, will kick off these things. So you want to make sure that your end users know it, or that you've hidden the bait files. So that's this one. Really powerful. Our clients rave about this, how it has saved them. So you may want to get this out there pretty quickly as well. Last, alert on unencrypted disk. This is going to scan the internal drives of the computers in this location, and if it finds a drive not BitLocker encrypted, then it will send you a ticket. Again, we only check for BitLocker now, so if it's not BitLocker encrypted, you will get a ticket, and you can leave that to only apply to laptops if you so choose. So there you go. There's all our policies. Let's go back to the overview, and there's not much green yet, so I'm going to click Save finally, and there you go. We've just issued commands for all of these policies just like that, and life is good. So a lot more protection generated that fast. So you just did a bunch of work to create all of these policies. So that's good. I mean, it's really good. But this is just one location. So what if I want to do this to multiple locations? Is there an easy way to do that? Absolutely. So let's take a look at that. It's under this profile. So down here we've got third wall profile control sitting on the bottom right. And I have created all these settings, and I can save them now as a profile. So I'm going to save this current configuration of policies as a profile. Click here, and I'm going to name it my name, Scott. Click OK. And it already exists. It's OK. I'm going to overwrite it. And Scott has been successfully saved. So the profile name Scott now represents all of these settings that you've got here. Before I use it, though, I'm going to try and do something else. I'm going to come back to profile, so hang on to that thought. I'm going to go down here to this reverse arrow button down here. You see the counterclockwise arrow? This is an undo all of the policies for this location. Use this for offboarding. We know that you offboard clients. You occasionally lose one, unfortunately. And you really don't want to send them off with third wall restrictions because that will cause some angst later, right? So before you offboard them via Automate, make sure that the Automate is still there and click on this button. And yep, I'm going to do this, and nope, I don't want to abort it. And I've just issued an undo for all of those particular policies, just like that. Okay? Now, do this for every location, then offboard them, and you're good to go. That will work. So let's go back to profiles. I'm going to go now here to this drop-down, and this drop-down list is user class protected. When you install third wall, you actually add two different extra levels of permissions within Automate. One of them is called third wall admin, and the third wall admin has super privileges. Even a super admin doesn't have the privileges of third wall admin, although a super admin is required to make somebody a third wall admin. But if you're not a third wall admin, you cannot click on this drop down. It will not work because it's a little bit on the dangerous side if you're not experienced. So click here, and you can see there's that Scott has shown up there, and we're going to click that. And Scott, the profile has been loaded. There it is. And you notice it's all showing up in blue. Pending changes by profile. Okay, so it's pending changes. That's good. How do I make it then change them? Well, I can click Save button if I want to, and it will save all of these changes to this one location. So that's good, right? It'll save it. It's fast. It's much faster than going policy by policy within a location. All of them will be done simultaneously. But I got more power than that at my fingertips. See this button here? Instead of clicking Save, I'm going to click Apply Profile. And Apply Profile brings up choices. I can save this to this one location. I can save it to this entire client, or I can save it to every single client that I am managing. Again, all the Windows computers across all of my locations that I manage with Automate. So there you go. This is really good for creating a base policy of no-brainers. You do that, and off you go, and things are good. So if you create a baseline, you can deploy it across everywhere. You've deployed a bunch of protection in just a matter of seconds. I'm going to scale it back a little bit to just this client, and I'm going to click Save. And yep, I want to do that. And okay, it's good to go, just like that. Okay, um, let's uh, uh, let's do something else now, though. Well, let me actually move from here to the other location. So here's demo 2. It's the other location, and I just applied to this entire client, right? And sure enough, there they are. So a little bit more about profiles, though. In fact, I'm going to get a clean slate on this particular one. I'm going to click undo, undo all, yes, don't abort. So these are going to go away, and let's choose something a little different. I'm going to choose from the drop-down list this one that we created called no-brainers. And again, this is just some policies that we created as a no-brainer. You should probably select your own and create a no-brainer for your own company. But I'm going to go ahead and apply this profile, and I'm just going to apply it to this location, although I could, if I wanted to, apply to all clients. I'm just going to make it simple and apply to this location only. Click Save, because the principle I'm going to show you is the same. So I've just deployed these to this location. Now I'm going to choose another profile. I'm going to choose this one called Data Security. Let's say I went and interviewed my client, and they said, oh, I want your no-brainers plus a few extras. So you interviewed them, and you created a profile with a few extras. So it's just these. Now again, I can apply this profile to this entire client. I'm going to, just for convenience, apply it just to this location. I could have clicked the Save button or just click up here, either way. And I'm going to click this Save button. Click here, and I have now deployed these to this location. Again, I could have deployed them more broadly. But notice how these 3 turn green. What happened to the rest of them? Nothing. Applying a profile on top of policies that already exist does not change policies that already exist, or it doesn't delete them. It could change them if the parameters are different, but it will never ever delete or undo policies that are already there. So you think of profiles as an overlay that you can layer one right on top of the other, and then you can customize by location, because profiles don't come back and play policeman. They don't police these settings later on after you've applied them. They're just an easy way to apply a bunch of policies at a point in time. So I can go in, I can, for instance, get rid of this one, click OK, and maybe add that one, click Save. And if I go back to the overview, you notice that these two have changed. This one's now green, this one's now yellow. And again, those are going to stay that way. The profile won't come back and police that. So that's profiles. Really important that you understand those so that you can easily start deploying third wall protection across your clients and more. All right, so that's those. Let's go take a look at an individual computer for a couple minutes first. So here is a computer I had open. This is Homer. It's in this grouping within this location that I've been working on. And I'm going to right-click the plugin, and I'm going to go to third wall. Again, a standard automate computer screen, and this is the third wall screen that goes with it. So one screen is all you need for the individual computer, but these are the things we can do with the individual computer. First of all, though, before we show you, let's see what the colors mean. The green on this screen means it tells us that the location policy is on. So the schedule, secure free space, delete. Actually, that one hasn't updated, but let's do this one. The prevent public webmail access policy is turned on, and there you go. It is turned on and ready to go. This computer is being impacted by that policy. Yellow means that the policy is not turned on and therefore not impacting this computer. If you want to, you can apply an exception even before that policy is turned on. Click here, click OK, and we now have an exception to that policy. What about if it's already green? So this one's already impacting this computer. So this is perhaps the CEO's computer. Remember how the CEO needs access to their webmail. So click here, and because it's green, I get 2 choices. I can make a permanent exception or a temporary exception. If I choose temporary, then I again get the slider all the way up to an hour again. I'll just leave that back down there. In fact, I'm going to make the exception permanent, but you can do either you want. Short window on one computer or a permanent exception. And we will issue an undo to that computer, again, either permanent or temporary, and that computer is now no longer impacted by this policy. So we freed it up, just like that. One thing I didn't show you that I will on this screen, you notice there are some that are light green. Light green on the location screen, this is the location screen again, means that the policy is active with exceptions. So again, you can see where I've applied exceptions and where I have not. So back to here. Let's go down to the bottom and talk about the buttons here. I'll leave these for later. These are described in our documentation of these are used for moving a computer from one location to another. Very useful. But let's talk about these. I'm going to start with the three on the right. Screen lock, lockout, and annihilate. These are commands, manual commands that you can issue, and they're specifically for lost or stolen computers. So computer's been lost or stolen, click screen lock. Maybe it's just been left at Starbucks. And that will lock the screen, and you'll need creds to get back in. So no casual people can get in. Lockout, you've seen lockout in one of our policies, the brute force logon attempt policy. And it, as you recall, will kick everybody off that computer, everybody's logged off, and then it will disable local accounts. So you have to have domain creds to get back in with lockout. And this switch is also the toggle for that. This will reverse that once you have recovered the computer. This is a reversal. Annihilate is not reversible, and you have to be a third wall admin to use it. So if I click Annihilate, this is going to wipe that computer. But we're going to give you three choices. You can do two choices, sorry. You can do a quick Annihilate, or you can do a secure Annihilate. Quick Annihilate will delete the documents folder, and then it will destroy the operating system. Happens very quickly. Secure Annihilate will do the same thing, but before it destroys the computer, it will run that 3-pass overwrite of ones and zeros over all those files you just deleted, and then it will destroy the computer, so the operating system. So these are really good. You have to make sure that you know what you're doing. Again, third wall admins only, and if I click Annihilate now, I still have to enter my Automate username in order to make it continue, which I'm not going to do for obvious reasons. So you can wipe lost or stolen computers. The isolate button is a little different. You've seen isolate with a couple of our policies, and you may recall it disconnects that computer from everything. No network, no internet, except for your Automate server and your Control or Screen Connect server. Those are still connected. So today your technician gets a phone call and says, hey, I think I've clicked on a cute kitty video that wasn't really a cute kitty video. What should I do? And your technician springs into action and tells them, please turn off the computer, or perhaps please disconnect that blue cable, and we'll send somebody right out. And you are now driving out on site to fix that computer. Takes a long time. The computer's down for a while. It's expensive. Takes technician time. There's nothing good about that situation. So instead of doing that, let's click the isolate button. Click isolate. We're going to isolate it. And we are now issuing that isolate command to go off to this computer. It may take me a second because I don't think that computer is called in yet. So it may take me a few seconds to get that isolate command to actually finish. But again, once it has finished, and yours is going to be faster than mine since I've only got one computer in this particular location. So I don't get the crosstalk looking for commands amongst Automate computers. So mine's going to take a little longer. Not to worry, yours will go much faster as long as you got more than one computer. And they call in much faster than this one computer will. So that being said, while I'm waiting for this, I'm going to go over here back to the report center and show you our second report. So I'm going to go back to the report list here, and you can see there's now a built-in client audit report. Fully brandable, of course. These are standard Automate reports, and I'm going to choose TW Demo, and I'm going to view this report. So this is a client level report, and it shows you by client and within client by location every single policy that's turned on and every exception that's applied. Not only which one's turned on, but when you turned them on. So hand this to an auditor and say, we've been checking this parameter every 5 minutes on this computer to make sure it's protected. You will get a lot of checkboxes checked from your auditors doing a compliance audit. So that is particularly powerful for audits. If I go back to the Automate Control Center, I can do well, let's go clients, data views, third wall, so another data view, and there is the enabled policies data view. It shows you every policy that's turned on and where it's turned on and when you turned it on. So again, at a glance, you can find out all the policies that are turned on with third wall and what's impacting what. So it's a very fast way to find out. There are two other data views while I'm here. Right click wherever you want, go to data views, third wall, and they are the computer audit log and the location audit log. Those are logs of third wall commands being made by you and your team. So you can show them. This is all the ones issued, for instance, to computers, and this particular location, I don't have any. So that one's a blank one on that particular client. So, but anyway, that gives you an audit feature. Let me go back to here, there, and oh, still waiting on that isolate, and that's not a good thing. Must cut it exactly the wrong part of its 5-minute cycle, obviously. All right, while I was doing that, let me show you one other thing. I'm going to go back to the system dashboard. Remember I told you you could set the alert template? We've got it set for all policies except for one to just send you a ticket. If that's not what you want as far as being notified by third wall for any of the tickets that we need to send you, if you want something else, you can click assigned alert template and go here, and it will do whatever you need as appropriate. You can also change the category. This is extremely powerful and popular if you are doing pass-throughs to ConnectWise Manage or things like that. You can click here and choose the appropriate alert category that you want, and then it can go through and you can assign it to a particular ticket board or something like that. So that is available to you as well. Okay, and I'm getting annoyed, as you might imagine, with my isolate button, and I don't want to cancel that. I want it to run through. Clearly caught it exactly the wrong couple of seconds. There it goes, finally. And again, yours will be faster, so my apologies for me having one computer in my demo environment. But you can see I've now isolated this computer. I can now work on it from my desk, and you can restore it as appropriate. Click here, and we are, after we fixed it, we're reversing that, and we're restoring its connectivity going backwards. So again, that'll be restored here in just a few seconds. That is third wall. It is an extremely powerful way for you to manage cybersecurity, locking down, reacting, responding automatically or manually, and getting appropriate documentation to make your environment much, much safer. You'll find pricing on our website, or give us a call. You'll find it extremely affordable, far, far less than what it would cost you for antivirus. And in this day and age, it's every bit as important as antivirus. It's just going to cost you a whole lot less. We only charge you for those endpoints where you actually that are in locations where you actually have used third wall. So you don't have to deploy everywhere if you don't want to. You don't have to buy enough licenses. We do an automated system, and we will charge you only for those licenses that you have, those computers that you're actually using it. So again, please reach out to us. We're at Third Wall, and we're happy to talk to you more about this and get you signed up for a free trial on our website, or a webinar, which repeats a lot of what I just said. Or if you want a deeper dive, just reach out to info@ or sales@, and we'll get back to you, and we'll give you answer whatever questions you may have. And we, of course, have a full support system for our clients and for people in trial, support at third-wall.com. We'll take care of you, and Third Wall will take care of you and keep you safer. Thanks, everybody, and please be safe.